I move that we approve minutes from our April 12th special board meeting and our April 19th board meeting.
Second, please.
Second.
Any additions or corrections? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Does anyone oppose accepting the minutes? I hear none. Thank you. You hear that, Vicki? Work items, we have the budget, the 2018 budget being presented by Rick Johnson and President Schaefer. Originally, Rick asked that we hold our questions till he was finished, but on second thought, he decided that written questions would be better. So, Rick, I think it's you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, while Vice President Johnson is making the way to the podium, I just want to take the opportunity to say what a true pleasure and treat it has been to have Rick at the helm and going through this and being able to pull together the presentation. And Jane and Coach Jane is always doing heavy lifting with this, but it's just been such a relief and so nice to have Rick ready to go back home to the pertains to the budget and budget presentation. So, Rick, thanks for having that.
You're welcome. You haven't come into the board. Good evening. It's stunning to me that it's been a year since I stood up here with what last year was kind of a different approach, but having first reading of the budget.
Can anybody hear Rick? I'm not sure that we can hear you.
So understanding that you guys need to hear better.
We're okay. It's
Maybe, okay, I'm sorry. I want to
So I'll
hear
try to
every
speak
word
up.
you say.
First, let me, that was nice of you to say, Joe, but thanks here really goes to Jim Merrick, and just continually astounded with the level of effort and dedication and thoroughness she brings to the budget process at the school. And I'd also like to point out that the BRAC, that committee of people, do some really outstanding work when the draft budget requests come in. They spend an enormous amount of time looking at that detail, asking the hard questions, creating this consultative loop that is unique to LCCC, I think. It's certainly unique. I've been in higher ed for 30 years and haven't experienced anything like that. It's really amazing. But I'm passing it thank you to Jane. I'm just the front man. Forget the things. When I go through the slides, we'll get to some slides where the slides are numbered at the bottom. You don't have the slide deck in front of you, but on some of the slides, you're going to see a page number in the top right-hand corner. That's a reference to your board book. And I'm going to jump around in that board book, so I'll try to remember to call that out, what page of the board book I'm on, so if you want to reference the material in front of you, you have it. And later, by the way, if anybody wants the slide deck, if you'll be happy to link it up there. And then you'll have the reference read about it. So please feel free to interrupt me if you'd like. Doesn't bother me the slightest, and after I thought about it, I thought maybe that would be better for the board. You may have a thought, on your mind that would be point, let's take it on down. So just raise your hand and interrupt me. So I'd like to start with a little remember war approach. See who can follow along. Oil is 37. 5 rigs working. Powder River coal is 947 and it fell about 27%. Natural gas was $1.50. Sales and use collections were down 20% for 10 consecutive years, months of year-over-year job losses. That's where we were 1 year ago. And then we had to drive to Rock Springs. The commission meeting. We thought Dawn in particular might appreciate that particular point. When we came out of Rock Springs, and I just want to take you back to where we were. The commission was getting an 8% funding reduction, which was really 15% for us. And you remember last year, those of you who were here, how that 8 became 15 and became a significant issue. So what we had 1 year ago was for fiscal year 17, the year we're in right now, we had to cut $1.5 million. And that was rapid. We had to figure that out in the course of a few months. we learned that for FY18, that would be an additional 2 million, totaling 3.5 of it biennial. So that's where we were. So we made some commitments to you all, board at that time, that for FY17, year in, we deal with that 1.5 million this way. We take operating reductions at to about 500,000, and then we'd use carryover and fund balance. So I'm calling out that $1 million, the combination of these two numbers. So I'm going to speak to that a little bit later. So remember that piece. But that's where we were dipping in our reserves. And then what we said is we'd like to take FY17 and really think about making strategic reductions for 18. 18, $2 million problem, let's be thoughtful. So that created the core initiative. We estimated at that time that it was going to be about a $2.5 million target for us to try to hit. We also made a commitment that we'd leave the fund balance hopefully in a stable position. There's some concern about that. There's a lot of dialogue about, well, if we dip into our reserves, the fund balance, what does that mean? How does that affect us? And we made that commitment. And then we made the commitment that we would return recurring expenses on the 1 year back to the operating. So I thought I'd at least give you an outline of how we think we did on that before presenting the budget. You may recall, the November board meeting, I think it was, the document dated November 30th that Dr. Schaefer presented to the board, which is a multi-page memo. It had this table. And in this table was the results of the core initiative, arriving at our target, 2.5 million. When we got done, we ended up with 1.2 million in salary reductions, 700,000 in non-salary. Think of that as operating and some other non-salary related expenses. $525,000 of recurring expenses over on the 1 mil. And then along the way, and I'll speak to this a little bit later, some unexpected revenues. The net there was achieving a $2 million reduction, roughly 18, which is actually what we needed as this thing built up dynamically. Fund balance, we held to the fund balance draw that related to the commitment we made to the board. We're heading into FY18 looking like we should have 4 million in there, maybe a little bit more than 4 million. You may recall there was discussion we were doing about how far in, 4 felt about right. So we retained that future stability. And then the 1 mil, you're going to see when we're moving that $525,000 of recurring expenses back to the current fund. And we like to think of that, we think you do too, that that's restoring flexibility, because the 1 mil has been this fund source that you've so with vision said we need to keep that flexible.
Let me ask you a question. Once you fund the balance drop, can you tell me again what fund that is that we have balance to draw from?
It's a combination of all the accounts. And it's the unspent fund, so to speak. I guess you would describe it.
Okay,
And the sum total
okay,
across the years.
okay, that makes sense.
So for us, we think mission accomplished with the commitments we made and what I'm really forward. Now, for those of you who are wondering about the then and now picture, it's interesting. I showed you these last year, and these are the exact slides in this year, only updated in time. These are prices. So we got gas, oil, and coal. Gas is up 70%. It stuns me when I saw this. Oil up 32%, and coal up 21%.
Over what period of time?
Year over year. March 2016, same date, March 2017. However, when we get to production, the last slide was prices, down 9.5 on gas, oil down 14.5, and what stunned me, coal production up 15%. caused me to think back to my economics courses in college and the pricing getting better in production, getting worse in coal, which we thought was bad. And I don't know, you look at this spike in coal production since we had the Rock Springs situation. It's just remarkable data. Even more remarkable is, I ran across this and I thought, you gotta see this because it speaks to our local economy here in Cheyenne. But this is building permits, Casper and Cheyenne. 3 years in Casper, it's dropped 26% building permits. But look at Cheyenne, 3 years up 110%. Well, the good side of that is, well, our economy is doing much better in Casper. The downside of this, maybe, is we've got this recalibration, recapture thing that the commission does, and when our valuations are up and others are down, we shuffle some of our money to the other counties. We haven't hit that yet. We haven't solved this that's coming, but it's something I worry about. I think all of us is worried about a little bit. Two things on enrollment. You've seen this slide before. We always have it in the presentation. This only runs out through 2016, but you can see our decline continues. If we had a 2017 dot at the end of this year, we would still see another small decline. You might say, well, it looks like we're kind of headed to a trough. You know, we're not falling off the cliff, but that other dot would probably be, you'll see in this. And you're going to see more in this presentation about enrollment decline. Here's an interesting slide that Joe made aware of that was presented at the most recent commission meeting. It's head count across the state at the community colleges last fall. Interestingly, so total head count, LCCC down 70. Casper only down 44, and Northwest only down 39. We're down a little bit more. But look at in-state. We're up. And in F&F today, we were just talking about, and this posing this question about, why kids choose to come here or not if there's somewhere else in the state. It's interesting data. You can look at this all day long. There's some scary numbers in here. Down 294 up in Sheridan, down 182 in Eastern. Stunning numbers. But we're going to present a balanced budget. But I wanted to lay just some groundwork to get you thinking about things. I'm sorry?
That's great.
Chair, Trustee Little looked at where a lot of that growth is, that for them, the majority of that is in new stuff. And my guess is that's a reflection of some impression of the industry and those folks are turning back to the college. Whereas I think, I don't know a lot of what Sheridan and other ones district, those numbers, a lot of those are probably dead. And in that case, that community just lost folks. Casper in some ways lost folks as well. It's that community. I think Western's doing some neat things. I think a lot of that is also just the state of the fact that most people have stayed in the community. But that's kind of
Okay, on to the topic at hand. I'm going to step back behind the podium so I can give you some details here for you. This first slide is well, I should say, the next three slides that you see, I'm told, you've never been provided these slides in a budget presentation. They've been in the budget book in certain places, but because of the core and everything we've been through, we thought it'd be helpful to show you kind of this back end, how we get to figuring out where we're at and what we're going to do with the money. So I'll kind of methodically work through these next three slides and please interrupt me.
This is page 13.
Yeah, thank you, Carol. Board book page 13, where you see this. So I like to think of this page as the puts and takes of what we're doing. The puts being where we've got something, the money coming in, and the takes where we're getting hit. So it's a sum total of the puts and the takes. So the first section here is new funds, and then we just run down that list form. So it starts out with state aid. The state aid is actually 21,000. because of recapture redistribution last go around with the commission or local appropriations daily. 28,000. Course completion. This is that part of the commission's performance funding model that we excel at. At least more recently, we've just been well done. So we've taken an increase in revenue of 371,000. Tuition, you see a negative 50,000. Let me give you the background here. The commission, remember, raised tuition across the 7 colleges by 7.2%. That brought us an additional $450,000 in revenue. But remember the enrollment trend. We've had declining enrollment. Because of the declining enrollment, we lost 500,000. So the net of those two factors is the minus 50. This business training is kind of immaterial. Again, it has to do with the facilities running around and adjusting their budget for what they actually anticipate seeing as increased revenues due to facility increases and EUW deal and so forth. Course fees, declining enrollment, so that's a decline of 56,000 in revenue. In athletic fees, same thing, it's a decline of 20 due to declining enrollment. So on the new funds, there's a net positive there of 545,000. Then we look internally, and we see the reductions in force with the core. We saved 1.2 million, you recall seeing that on the previous slide. We had a vacancy for an ACC, and I'm going to speak to that vacancy in a little bit, so we remember this one, of 85,000, and that's salaries and benefits. And then vacancy replacement, sometimes it costs more to replace a position when you're paying the vice versa. So we had to keep there at 20 to take. And so when you do the math here, down at the bottom, you see we have $1.8 million to reallocate. It's it puts and takes some together. And so the next slide, I'm going to begin to show you how we balance the budget and proposing that we distribute that 1.8 million. This is broken up into sections, typically by the divisions of the school. But I want to start out with the compensation. Everybody hear me okay? You recall that we had that degree. We're doing a compensation study. It's all but done. Some reports have come in. Joe and Tammy are working on it. We've set aside 340,000. You see that in the first row. That we would contribute to those market adjustments that may be needed. And we think that might be a not to exceed number, a high number. I think there's more work to be done. Okay. So that's our placeholder for that. Following along in compensation, there is some educational advancements we are obligated to invest in 45. There's a retirement piece, retirement rates. So Jim was telling me this, the rates stay the same, but the reimbursement keep going.
If I could just follow up on that, so over the past, you've seen this in our past budgets, because over the past couple of years, the state has increased their contribution to employee retirement. And as it's moved forward, they've been shifting who's covering what part, the part covered by the state, and so on and so forth. This essentially represents the part that the state suggests the employee should pick up as we move down that change. As we've done in the past, the college has opted to continue to cover that share of the employee's retirement contribution. So that 41,000 represents the college saying we're going to continue to cover that for the employee, so we don't have to take that out of the employee's paycheck into that. And so I think that's important. This is something the college is trying to do. It's important since we continue to move these changes around.
This is the steps.
Madam Chair, Trustee Ketchum, my understanding is this would occur over 2 biennials, so FY 18 reflect the last year.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, now we're moving to academic affairs section. You see this big $313,000 reduction. That's part of the core. That's the operating reduction that they took of the total. Course fees, you're seeing that same number again. We take a cut because of the declining enrollment. See the business training again. And let me focus you on that last line in that section. It says instructor HITO. This is the state's higher ed endowment program. What we were told is the estimated earnings were below spending policy. This is right out of the state. And therefore the reserves were depleted. And the result of that is that we are getting less than we have typically gotten out of the higher ed endowment of the state. Now that endowment, 2/3 of that endowment, it's interesting, goes to UW. 1/3 gets spread around the 7 colleges. For us, it means we had to move one staff member off of that stream of funding over to the current program. So it's an additional cost for us on the company. We chose to do that rather than have a little staff or something. I don't think the future is very bright on this high ed endowment, by the way. All indications are that it will continue to not have as much distribution as it has had in the past. So,
Rick, is that federal money? Higher ed endowment? Is that federal money?
state,
State money? Yeah, thank you.
yes. Next section, student services, you see the operating budget reduction that they took, the athletics fee that you saw, and the other page that drops, and then scholarship funding that we're committed to continuing there. The president, excuse me, a very dry throat. He took his hit on the operating reductions as well. On the campus, you see the same. They took a hit of 83,000. Then we get to institutional effectiveness. Kim Bender's area, he took his hit. And then this next line I'd like to call out, computer services and telephone services moving from the 1 mil back to the current plan. We're moving $525,012 off the 1 mil back to the current plan. This is back to one of those board commitments we made 1 year ago. When we get to institutional advancement, you see where they took, they actually didn't take a cut on the operating budget. They went up a little and we moved $50,000. We consolidated some advertising monies that were spread around the institution. It actually resulted in a slight increase for them. But we still hit the 3% reduction overall. Then we get to my area, and you're going to see risk management and safety director, 85,000. This is where I've gone to Joe and the cabinet and so forth. We made a case that this institution needs to have a risk management and safety director. We've learned that they're big enough, they're complex enough, and we've now been exposed to some very serious problems in this space. And we've learned that not only do we need to fix some things, which you might think of as one-time fixes, but we need to have ongoing effort and ongoing programs, some of it dictated by OSHA, and some of it just good, wise, common sense, so that we have a safe environment and a healthy environment and so forth. So we were proposing with that vacancy at ACC, that money be reallocated to this position. If anybody would like to go into detail on some of the things that lay before us, I'd be happy to help you learn about that. Now, the final row there, that $1 million, that's that 600 and 400 that I called out in the previous slide, where we dipped into our reserves, 400 on carryover, 600 into the fund balance. We're bringing that back into the current fund and not tapping it any further. So that's one of those board commitments, speaking in the proposed distribution of the 1.8 million positive dollars that we have. Please.
Regarding your 1 mil, how much do we generate in the 1 mil?
That's my next slide.
Okay, let's go on to that.
Yeah, we just jump in.
Okay.
So 1 mil. Every time we look.
What's that slide?
I'm sorry?
22.
Page 22, thank you, Claire. And then, Let's start with revenues, to Butch's question. We think on an estimated basis that the revenues in the 1 year will be up a little bit this coming year. And that's the small red print that you see here beside, I'll call that for you. The mill levy going from 1.282 last year to 1.319 as an estimate in the coming year. So that's an increase of 109,000. And then the motor vehicle fees is an estimated increase of 17,000. So when you look at that sum total of the revenues, how'd you see?
I can't find
It's not in there.
Oh, you don't have that detail.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, you see a different depiction of it due to the commission standard. Yeah, thank you. So anyway, 1 year revenues are estimated to be up a little bit for us compared to the next year. About $126,000. Now let's get into the expenses. So we was funded Eastern Iowa County out of the 1 year. Last year was 105,000. This year it's only needed to be 57,000. The reason for that is we had a retirement. They replaced that resource with part-time help rather than one for one swap. So we saved some money over there. Professional development, as I can tell, and while I've been here, we've allocated $50,000 a year out of the 1 year for professional development. So we're proposing that stays the same in the coming year. Equipment repairs and replacement, going from 75 last year to 100. That's actually a restoration of where we used to be. For a long time, we set aside 100,000 last year. We dialed that back because of the financial strains. I'm going to get into the final section here of this. Facilities planning, 75,000. This is money we use when we need to grab an architect and do some work as we're renovating some space. Not big stuff, it's a lot of little stuff. Get us going maybe on a level 1 for something. And that amount of money served us well, so we're proposing that to stay the same. You see small maintenance projects. Last year, 328,000. We're rising that to 500 in our proposal. That's the historic amount, so it's a restoration. Sometimes I probably sound like a broken record, but we have such an aged infrastructure here on campus that money we have in major maintenance and small maintenance coming out of this 1 year is really critical to kind of trying to stay up with the various problems we have with water lines and electrical lines, and the list just goes on and on. So we're restoring that back to $500,000. You'll see operating reserve. Last year we were able to sneak out $100,000 to save us from unplanned for crises. We bumped that up to 238. It's kind of plugging here with balances, but that's a good healthy number for the size of our institution to have in a strategic reserve to cover us if we have unforeseen circumstances. Then we get to these one-time items. It's actually a combination of a couple of things with just a little left over. When we had our active shooter training last August, you may recall in the report that you got that we learned that our radio system is not sufficient to be used in certain parts of the campus. In a tunnel, in an interior room, in an interior part of the building, so forth. We need better radios. That's 20,000, and we feel rather obligated to get this done based on the recommendations of UNM. And then the signs you see there, the administration signs that FEF has been interested in seeing us get done in front of the administration building to reduce confusion of people. As we had a lot of people coming into the front door of administration and really they're looking for advice on something. The next line is risk mitigation. This ties back to this risk management and safety role. We've got a long list of things we've got to fix. And I'm happy to give anybody any details here. They're not imminent danger, but they're things that we need to address. I don't know what they're going to cost. I think I can get a long race at fixing many of these things, appeasing our property insurer. And so we've allocated $75,000. Recruitment scholarships and AAC pathways, I'm going to ask Dr. Schaefer to jump in just a moment. But let me drop down to that last group. you see the $525,000 of recurring expenses that are on the 1 year now disappearing, coming back to the current fund, that board commitment that we made. Joe, could you touch on the other two, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, and actually I'll also jump in, just a refresher on the compensation, the market adjustments we had in the previous slides. So as you recall, at least the trustees that were here, but I think the new trustees received an overview of that. Last year when we set my goals for the year, there were certain things that you wanted us to work on, which included developing a compensation model that flowed from your draft policy that we worked on about a year ago to be incorporated into the budget process. And that's the work we've been doing with Evergreen. They will likely recommend more than just market alignment, but for this year, we thought that was probably the most critical aspect that we wanted to address in that compensation goal, was to make sure that we have employees from a retention perspective within the market, so that market pressure isn't holding them away from us. So that's the first one. You also wanted to focus on recruitment and enrollment. As you saw across the community colleges collectively, we're struggling in the state. I think the university is there too with enrollment. Some bright indications that were pleasantly surprised, seeing that I've taken in state students for us. This $200,000 is really a pilot, if you will, to allow us to test expanding some of our merit-based scholarship programs outside of the service area. Right now, our deans and presidential merit-based scholarships are restricted to those students who come from our service area, which is Albany and Montgomery County. This $200,000 will allow us to take that statewide as well as in proximate states, so border communities in Colorado and Nebraska, and possibly South Dakota and other areas. And so you see that there as a strategy to see if we can expand those boundaries and actually use those merit-based scholarship dollars to improve our students to LCCC. And in many ways, I think it probably gets us closer to the playing field with the other 6 community colleges. So that money there is good. We decided to keep it on the 1 mil here because we want to test the feasibility. It would likely be a 2-year commitment, meaning that if we commit to these students, then we'll have to fund them for 2 years. So you may very well see it on the 1 mil as well. But that's directly as a recruitment strategy. And then the $45,000 is the Pathways project that I gave you a brief overview on at your last meeting. It's directly tied to the goal that we have to develop an academic master plan and move forward with this. And I'll mention a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Joe. Moving on. So with the balanced budget that we put together, the proposed balanced budget, we'll go through some slides here that you've seen before in the past. They're actually kind of part of the commission's structure for all of the community colleges. So here's a revenue comparison. We look at last year, which is what we're proposing for the coming year. I'll call out just a few things. We compared the state appropriations row down in the numbers. You'll see that up. And remember, I was pointing out that our state aid is up. Tuition and fees, you'll see down. And we talked about that a minute ago. If you do the math down at the bottom, total the $47.3 million and the $44.9. That's a $2.4 million difference all in. I should point out, we talk a lot in this budget process and presentation about the current fund. You may remember from the flow of funds that we talked about, what we call the operating fund is the current fund plus the 1 mil. So this moves a little bit between the two, so I think we confuse it. But all in, 2.4 million difference. Expenditures by series. Now I'm on board book, page 11. A couple call outs here. You look at salaries, comparing last year to this year, down significantly. That's because of the core. You'll see the operating expenses down year over year. That's because of the core. And keep in mind, if you spend some time kind of studying the pie charts up above, they're in percentages. So you've got to switch your head there a little bit and think about, you might look and say, well, this actually should be down, and it looks up. It's because it's percentages, so it's a pro rata share. Here's a slide you've seen in the past which shows our expenditures by program. It's always an interesting slide. In every case except scholarships at the bottom, which I'll touch on last, it's declines of 6 to 8%. This is largely due to the poor. The poor has hit us across virtually the entire spectrum of the college. If you look at public service, the red chart, red lines on this chart, it's down 24%. The reason that's showing down so much is because of what we learned at the dinner. I think Eileen mentioned this. We moved 1.5 salaries off of the current fund over to the auxiliary fund, hoping to fund that more sustainably through the facility rate increases and so forth. So that's why that's such a big dip. So now scholarships, you see that one actually up a little bit. That looks to be up due to the $200,000 investment that Joe just spoke of on the $1 million for scholarships.
Madam Chair, members of the board, the other thing that's driving that up, recall that when the commission institutes a tuition increase, we have to increase the scholarship amounts for those students who are scholarshiping and waiving their tuition. So anytime you see, you'll just see this in the budget, anytime you have a tuition increase, you're going to see our scholarship amounts having to adjust up, because it now means we have to cover a larger amount of the tuition for students.
Couple of slides now, just where we tie budget allocation to things like strategic goals and KPIs. I won't spend a lot of time on this. You actually kind of study this and get lost in the thoughts. But if you look at goal 1 and goal 4, goal 1 is increased high value credentials, and goal 4 is transforming our environment. Those two together make up a little more than half of where our budget allocation is landing relative to our strategic plan. The next slide are the KPIs. Same sort of thing here. And this one takes more time to really study, and if you get the slide deck and study it, it's interesting. But if you look at the blue block, student participation, the light green block, campus climate, and the red block, academic prep, that's 2/3 of our budget allocation towards these realms of our key performance indicators. Seems like great balance to me, and what you saw last year was similar sort of outcomes here. Now we're moving into the tabs in the budget book. Take one each of them individually. So we'll start with the auxiliary fund. The orange on the screen you're seeing is a rough description of the definition of these fund buckets. In your appendices, there's much broader definitions of these different realms. So auxiliaries, incidental operations, these are the things that we want to be self-sustaining and not rely upon the current fund or the operating fund. Res halls, facilities, cognitive food service, the child discovery center, bookstore. We're up about 100K going into next year. Due largely in the raising facility rates, as you saw at the dinner. We're raising the room rates in resident halls by 1%, and that's the first time we've done that in a number of years. I don't remember the exact number of years, but it's been a while. In the F&F today, Don had the vision to ask for some comparative data a month ago that was presented describing how our rates compare as best we can compare with the rates of the other community colleges in the state that have resident halls. I think I said this earlier today, it's like comparing apples, lemons, pears, and throwing a vegetable, because everybody does it differently. It's really hard to get that comparison, but those three things are driving the auxiliary revenues up about this 100K. Moving to the restricted fund, so this is where all our contracts and grants lie. We get grant money, it's money that comes from external sources, not the state. Generally, through the state appropriation process. Federal grants, state grants, local grants, and private grants. It's interesting, we're up $850,000. So I've been through 2 budget cycles here now, and something that I find just really amazing is we have almost $20 million on externally funded grants. And that's pretty high for an institution of its size. Just to really reflect back on, the ability to see. It's kind of remarkable. Now, last year we told you that the Act Now grant was going away, that FY17 is the last year. So that was a big grant. But that's been replaced with this grant called Educating Towards Economic Diversity. And it's a biggie, $120,000. It's my understanding that Joe recommended that we're a sub-award to an award that was to Montana and a sub-award to Sheridan. Anyway, pretty good chunk of money landing here at CCC. And then you see this higher education endowment down, the non-FTE that we can't fund, the fund source moving to the current fund. So that was a hit here, it was a take. And then TRIO work study, SEOG, Perkins, and ABE, those are all up, sum total about 60K. So when you wrap all that together, this particular fund bucket, as I like to call it, is up $850,000, which is kind of remarkable. Now to the endowment fund tab. This is my least favorite slide to try to explain because I've now spent almost 2 years trying to understand it myself, but I'll do my best to. You'll see that we intend to spend somewhere around $228,000. That's investment income that needs to show up on our books. It comes from the LCCC corpus of the state match that resides at the state, which is about $9 million. Our corpus resides there, is about $9 million. Spinning off some investment income, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $228,000. It's an odd thing, I'm told repeatedly by Harry and a new comptroller, Lola Rocha, even tried to help me understand the accounting behind this. It's interesting. But so there isn't any confusion in why I have this last point here. Direct financial support by the foundation to CCC is almost 900,000. So don't want to cause a confusion that the foundation is only generating 20,000. That's not the case. And that's about all you'll see on that board book, page 34, by the way, is that 228. That goes to scholarships. Now on to the plant fund. This is where we have a wide variety of items stored in there. The long-term assets, renewal, replacement of facilities. There's a big debt service in there, but not all our debt service below. That budget's down $7 million, but construction's all but over. It was up because of that, and of course that's tailed off. Important thing to remember here is, and you'll see it in page 37, is we anticipate $2.5 million from the state, perhaps in July, $2.5 million from the foundation, for a total of $5 million, which is what we're anticipating, revising the library renovation down to. So I got a call recently from the LSO, who asked me where we're at with it, gave the full update, let them know that we're waiting to get moving as soon as you tell us that $2.5 million is ready to go. So we're in a holding pattern. The last call out here is the coldest bonus money. The state calls it contingency reserve. LCCC over the past years has made great use of this funding stream, which I told you last year was going away. So we had around $300,000 left of this money in this fiscal year. That's what's completing these small gateway increases that we see going on. So they told us a year ago, we don't get any more. That story hasn't changed. I reminded them on my slide, the culvert comes up, but that goes away. So we're spending that out on the small gateways and energy building. And then slide 2 before just a complete summary of the whole picture. I'll hit highlights here. Unrestricted operating down $2 million, rough numbers. Look at the auxiliary up 100. Restricted up 850, so maybe you can see. Endowment running level, we'll see what we end up spending with. And the plant fund way down, but it's way down because we completed the construction. But interestingly, when you look at the very bottom row, our overall budget there is dropped 8.7 million. But it was inflated before because of all the construction. So that concludes the slides of the proposed draft budget. And happy to talk with any questions.
Madam Chair, on page 14, on the recurring expenses at the bottom, recurring expenses budget from the fund of $1 million, moving from the fund balance to current fund. My understanding of what that means is that we're taking $1 million that is not going to be new money, that's not being replaced. So to come at the end of the year, fiscal 18, we would have $1 million deficit in that reserve, in that fund balance. Am I correct in that analysis?
No, I may have not heard.
And I may not have explained it too well, but what I'm trying to say is if we're taking money from a fund balance of $1 million in order to provide us with revenue for fiscal 18, that is money that won't be replaced a year from now.
This is reflecting the dip we took into the fund balance down in 17 that we're no longer going to be doing when we get to fair.
Yeah, Chair, Trustee, you're right, just flip it. This is the cleanup of what we did last year for just that. So last year we said, hey, we want to buy time, so we're going to take $1 million out of reserves, carry over reserves, and use that to fund ongoing operations while we figure out where we can free up money through the budget reduction. Well, if you remember previously, we freed up about $1.8 million. So then we had to move those expenses that were on the reserve funds last year back to the current fund, and that eats up that $1 million. So what that $1 million shows is actually the hole we're filling in FY18. It will make us whole now going into the rest of the fiscal year.
That's much better than what I thought. I like that.
Yeah, right. So we took the reserves last year. Now we're cleaning it up. So that
Okay.
$1 million shows now we can't use that.
So we're catching up.
Yes, sir.
We have caught.
Yes, sir.
Right?
The one thing I'd add there, Madam Chair, Trustee Wilson, so in that slide before that, when we talked about the puts and takes, this net positive, the 1.8 million to redistribute, that's new money in exchange to be allocated to $1 million.
Madam Chair. Quick comment, I'm just trying to make sure I understand the 1 mil fund thing. You had a slide up there before, did you spend all that $1.6 million? Or is there still some left in that account? I didn't see.
I think there's some money left in the one fund balance.
There is?
We didn't fully spend that one.
Well, we're budgeting out what we expect to receive next year, but we still have a fund balance.
So it strikes me, you're budgeting out what you're gonna receive,
The budgeting against the flows coming.
okay? But you're gonna have a fund balance, you know what that,
We're currently carrying a fund balance, and I would say it's about $1 million more.
in that 1 mil fund,
In fund balance.
in fund balance.
This is more of a, what you might think of as a operating income statement view.
Okay. Is that what you want, is that a goal, or is that?
Yeah, it probably just reflects, in each year, all across the institution, here's a good example to use a different one. We budget money for major maintenance, small maintenance, but from different fund sources. And we work like the devil to complete all those projects. We can't always get them all completed in that given year. That then leaves money left over that runs in fund balance. And I think that happens here.
Okay. And so the money that originally you were gonna take out of the fund balance in your initial narrative, and said now you're gonna put it back in, you didn't make that credit and that debit in this particular
Not in the
budget
budget.
season. Okay.
Yeah, so, Madam Chair, just to get it back, if I'm understanding correctly, yes, sir, our original core proposal was we were gonna keep $600,000
Out of that.
of operating on here because of that unanticipated revenue. So the success that the faculty had in increasing student course completions resulted in that $370,000, and then we had that bump in the recapture redistribution state aid, it actually made it so we didn't have to leave those operating expenses on the one mill. So we are not carrying any of those operating expenses, which allowed us then to plan for the expenditures of the $1.6 million we anticipated revenue in the one mill for those other purposes. Is that kind of what you're after?
Yeah, I saw in the narrative, but I didn't see it, credit or debit in the one year budget.
Yeah.
620,000.
It was a
It never
strategy,
happened.
it was a strategy we never had to.
You also have to remember, the one was kind of a separate and distinct fund source that, sits off to the side, separate from the current fund. When we combine them together, we call it the operating fund.
Well, I really like the flexibility. I mean, that's a great tool to have.
And Madam Chair, members of the board, you probably read that in the memo as well. We are far from entering into certain fiscal times. I mean, there are a lot of things that are up in the air as we look at the next biennial budget. K-12 resolution still being the one. What this budget has done is essentially restore that flexibility in the one bill, which allows us to do some good things this year. But probably the most important thing is it keeps that flexibility there for whatever may come in the next biennial budget. We just don't know. We anticipated a recalibration based off of the changes to the funding model as we saw House Bill 80 last session. That's largely driven by enrollment trends. So you saw the fall 2016 enrollment across community college was down 600. So remember when we established that legislation, we said the good years will go up and the bad years will go down. If they recalibrate based on that, it is possible we can see less state funds. So those are the uncertainties that we still are trying to grapple with, and what we've done is preserve that liquidity in the one mill so we can actually handle it. So it allows us to get some stuff done next year, but also really keep that flexibility so that we don't have to go into major crisis mode if something changes.
Madam Chair, following up on the recalibration, don't we have another 2 years before they do that?
Madam Chair, Trustee Erickson, my understanding is this would be the recalibration year. We implemented it for 2 years and then they would recalibrate at the beginning of 1920 So that is not, now it's recalibrated off of the average student credit hour enrollment over the previous 3 years, I think. So it's not just fall 16 that will take that into account. My understanding is they would recalibrate, that would be part of the commission's budget request. And that request, while it would be considered just this biennium, would actually freeze our state funding for 2 biennium. That's sort of the way the legislation was created. So what it is what it is for the next 4 years.
That's what I'm saying. It would be 4 years. So I would think that the recalibration would occur.
This would be the Madam Chair.
It would be this upcoming
This would be
time.
the first recalibration based on House Bill 80 and would impact the next 2 biennium.
Darn. I had it a little bit big.
And I could be wrong, but I don't know if Trustee Ketchum said that you recall, so that's what I thought too. Now, again, it's the budget request from the commission, ultimately to the governor will make his direction to the appropriations committee. There is nothing that binds them from funding one way or the other. So we'll still have to follow the rules in the legislative process.
That's a legislative issue that we can probably examine down the road before the next legislature. Perfect.
Any more questions?
You know that we cut the trustee section. I didn't know if there was any way for provision, so expenditures that weren't spent on certain items. To just go for training for the trustees. It would be an ongoing thing, or would it be something that could be a one-time?
Madam Chair, I would think that we have the flexibility within our budget to make those transitions from one line item to another as we move along. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Madam Chair, just Trustee Ketchum's comment that I would agree. The other thing that we carry, when we carry that operating reserve that Vice President Johnson mentioned at the one day, you know, that's a reserve of funds that's really there should something catastrophic happen, something we have to replace for, and when it dips significantly, so we don't have the tuition revenues we anticipated, but we still have the expenditures. Each semester that we go through, the summer, fall, and spring, we get more and more sure whether we need that or not. So as we get towards the tail end of the year, it's likely that there could be funds, like in one place, everything we don't dip into that reserve. There could be funds available as we get further through the year to be able to be allocated for those types of things. So keep that in mind if something does come up and you're looking at spring professional development in 2018. We can look and see if we need that full reserve. There's some opportunity. Jane, is that fair?
Yes.
Madam Chair, I do have a recognition. After the last, or this current year's budget, when we approved it, we reviewed the document at that time. Rick and I sat down. Rick made a statement like, would you like to see a presentation at the next budget session, which is this one, that simplifies and helps the board understand the budget? And I think this is a marvelous presentation that you presented, and we expect it to continue. Thank you.
Me too.
So, thank you very much. Thank you for all of your hard work, and Jamie, I can't see her over there, but it's so we're done.
Madam Chair, members of the board, just to close this up, so that the next time you will see this will be your budget proposal at your June 28th meeting. So you recall that the board has been encouraging us to approve the budget prior to the start of the year. And so in the past, you would have gotten sort of a mid-time update of any major changes or things like that. We had to hold the first reading today to meet the statutory requirement to present it to you before May 15th. But then to get it to you in June, you're going to get the final budget. So I would encourage you to work with your Facilities and Finance Committee. If you have comments, questions, or things here, give it to me, you can work with Vice President Johnson. But know that the next time you see the budget formally as a board, it will be our recommendation to approve it for FY 18.
And you're comfortable with the direction it's going.
I am. I think Jane and Vice President Johnson would have a little more time, but we've got the meeting scheduled for June 28th, and that's when we'll have the final budget.
Yeah, the Erickson name isn't well received in the administration offices.
I have a question. So Rick is talking about the simplification of things. So if I look on page 7 of our board book, where it talks about the fund budget summary, what I see as the major differences between last year and, or I guess the year we're in now, and the year that you are proposing, which is 2017, 2018, it looks like there's about a $9 million difference. And it looks like most of that is plant and construction. So we're not building, we don't have money in there to build buildings, right?
Right, I mean, to say it a different way, I'm sure Trustee Miller, in the previous year and years with all the construction going on, that was very inflated.
Right, yes, that's another way of saying it. And then a difference, it looks like about $500,000 in 1 mill levy. And that's really, I mean, there are subtle differences all throughout the budget, but.
Madam Chair, Trustee Miller, I'd call out that when the unrestricted operating fund, you see that $2 million difference.
Yes.
Back to our core problem, that would be our concern.
Oh, I see, unrestricted operating, yes, there's $2 million there too, and that's a biggie.
That's been the main biggie.
The big, right here, okay, so there's $2 million of it, okay, all right, okay. I think that's all I have. I just wanna make sure that I'm seeing and understanding how that works. So you're right, I didn't acknowledge the 2 million in the unrestricted operating, that's very, very, very. And then the, plant construction, that's the biggest. Okay.
Madam Chair, for a minute, if members of the board, to that last discussion, there's one thing I'm still thinking about. We began seeing output, receiving output from the commission, which they typically do this time of year. Actually, a little earlier. Last year was like, seemed like it was a little earlier. I haven't seen it. I don't know what it's saying. I'm busy preparing for tonight. It's the normal course of things for the commission, but I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say there could be something in there that, with what they do, that could be throwing us on a bit of a curveball that I don't want to come on with.
Well, at least, Madam Chair, I think what you're saying is a very possible suggestion.
I think that's true. I'm just telling him it's not his fault. He can't put it into a document that he doesn't have the information.
And also, Madam Chair, the precedent that has been established over the 4 years I've been here, is that when something like that happens, we're notified. So we blindsided.
And so, Madam Chairman, the board, this is just a scenario, so don't know anything at the moment, but let's say there were an adjustment in there that is substantial. So we'd have to revise this budget to rebalance it. And so, I'm not experienced that, but I presume that we come together. We'd figure out how we resolve it, and we come together, so here's what we're proposing as a response.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Excellent, John. Thank you. Keep us apprised, please. I think it's very confusing, actually. I am going to have to take some more time to study it. And you'll be available if you have questions before you take
Yes,
ask your question individually.
Anytime.
Can I ask just a general kind of question? As far as the public is concerned, if somebody says, what does the LCCC budget look like this year? What's it gonna look like next year compared to this year? Just some kind of general statement.
I think I'd have to say it's down 2 million.
Okay, okay.
To explain all those other pieces gets a lot of complexity, you know.
And mostly just because of less operating. We have $2 million less in operating funds.
Right, and I might even go on to say, with the Rock Springs situation that we experienced, that 15% cut, we took a $3.5 million hit in state resources over the biennium. 1.5 last year, $2 million going forward.
Okay. That answers my question. Thank you.
We have this picture. Thanks again. We'll be in touch.
I won't be far.
Thank you. LCCC reports, Rhonda, please. Staff Senate.
Madam Chair, Trustees, thank you. Just a few things to mention on behalf of Staff Senate. One is that Staff Persons of the Year were chosen by the LCCC staff and recognized at the annual awards reception on May 5th. And if Tammy Race is here, I just give her kudos. I thought that was an excellent event, a lot of fun. If you were there and if you weren't, missed a great evening. But we had several people that were recognized, and I want to mention each of them. For Classified Staff of the Year, the nominees were Deborah Ambroso, and she was the award recipient. Suzanne Briggs, Kathy Curtis, Kelly Green Cashin, Rachel McRoy, Karen Wintrouble. And then for Professional Staff Person of the Year, we also had 6 nominees. First being Janice Cheever, and she was the award recipient. Also Christy Fortell, Stacy Mastis, Sarah Smith, Zeke Sorensen, Janine Steele. So if you see any of these people around campus, congratulate them because they were nominated by their peers for doing excellent work and going above and beyond. And we want to continue to recognize people like that throughout the year, not just during our receptions. Secondly, we have, the STEP Senate has been working together to revise our bylaws. And so we're doing that. We'll also be nominating new officers. And we're also looking for representation across our campus to participate in Staff Senate. We've had better participation this year, but we still have some areas of campus that are underrepresented. And that's something that we feel like is very important because we feel like we're a great venue for communication, to get information from here as to each of the departments on campus, and also a way to address concerns and ideas that people have to make our campus better. And so it flows both ways, and we see that Staff Senate can be a part of that. Lastly, we have the staff retreat that's coming up on Wednesday, June the 21st. I believe I've mentioned that to you before. We did change the dates. We have been, since I've been a part of it, it's been done in August, but we surveyed the campus and found out that June is a better date, especially for student services, because August is to be really hectic when we get ready for students and faculty come back on staff, back on campus, I mean. And so we will be doing that here on campus, which will something we haven't done recently as well. And we think that will make it more accessible to people and they can participate. What we do is we have a morning session and an afternoon session. They're exactly the same, and then we have lunch in the middle. And so that way we can have coverage on campus as well. We'll be doing it in the A&B Bank Leadership Center in the Clay Pathfinder building. Excited about that. And based on the survey results, we're finalizing the agenda now. We already have 2 speakers from outside of our campus and focusing on some of the areas that were brought up in our survey, communication, team building, goal setting, and resiliency. And we've also invited Dr. Schaefer to join us for lunch, and I think he has agreed to do that. And certainly all of you are also invited to join us for lunch that day and be a part of that staff event on June the 21st. Any questions for me?
Thank you. It was good to talk to you again. Thank you to know the positive reaction that's happening.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm very aware.
That sidebar, we didn't hear.
You like it.
Okay.
Okay, Rob is not here to speak in. Dr.
Thank you, guys.
Get to take a break.
Catch a breath.
Yeah, just a few quick things in the essence of time. I did reference earlier talking about the Pathways 2.0 project design built into the 1 million. We want to report that we had our institutional interview yesterday with leadership from the American Association of Community Colleges and the staff and faculty to the questions that we well. And we received the informal nod that we would be accepted into the so as I've told folks, that means the work's really good to begin now, but it would be nice to be part of this broader network and really some good work.
Do they do a site visit or do they do it over phone?
Madam Chair, Trustee Erickson, this was phone. So I wanted to let you know that we're moving forward with that. I do want to point out and recognize here, even though I don't speak, that this will be student government president's last board meeting with us. He has prepared a amazing speech, as I understand it, for commencement on Saturday, but just want to take the opportunity to recognize him for his leadership in the past years in the Student Government Association, RA, and all that he has on campus. So we're encouraging him to continue his education and do good things. Robert, thanks for filling in for the last few meetings this year. The last thing that I just want to bring up is your agenda for the retreat on June 2nd. It's going to be June 2nd. It's going to be before you know it. At this point, Trustee Erickson has shared some thoughts on that agenda. We would like to get it published right now. I'm anticipating spending some time on just some general board development exercises, a few that we did as part of the GISS last year. There's a couple of them that would be very, very good for new trustees. I will want to spend a little bit of time talking about the facilities campaign, potential minimum levy election, and some of those things. But if you have other items that you'd like us to work into that, please send them to Vicki so that we can get a draft agenda to board chair, vice chair, and so With that, Madam Chair, happy to answer any other questions or to.
Questions? Questions? Okay, so if you have any additions to the retreat, just let Vicki know.
Maybe one here.
Okay, moving on. Reading policies, these are all second readings. Acceptable use policy. Is there any more discussion on that?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make an adjustment to the discriminatory one, but I just before that, I think we're approving second use policy and social media policy.
Second.
Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? One is opposed, and now that is speak to the pending report.
So, Madam Chair, discriminatory piece. In that third paragraph, I would like to eliminate that last sentence in the third paragraph. I know because it says $60,000. You disclose approved by the board, and then it says $50,000 at the end.
Kind of the chair, I would agree with that, striking that sentence. Is there any other discussion?
Madam Chair, we had a lot of discussion on this particular section. And I looked to Dr. Joe to kind of give us his take on whether it's even, or whether he wants it in there.
Madam Chair, Trustee Erickson, members of the board, looking at that, I know that the general interest in the conversation that led to the inclusion of that question. One of the things for that sentence, one of the things we did recognize is not complicated feedback, but actually lends itself to greater confusion and any type of clarity. And so at this point, we already have a mechanism in place through the FNF committee to keep the board apprised of major procurement contracting activities, regardless of the amounts. And so it's probably an unnecessary sentence that could absolutely lead to greater confusion. So I certainly would appreciate that.
Madam Chair, I'm glad we're talking about this. $60,000 seems like and can you continue to explain why you went so low? Is giving an explanation for anything over $60,000?
Madam
It was
Chair,
a 30.
the original policy is 35. And it hadn't been changed. Okay? And then I'm looking for the 60,000.
So, Madam Chair, do you have any flow? Is that an arbitrary amount because it was double of what was in last time? Or what's really a logical amount that we really have to bring to board? $60,000 in the big scheme of things is very much.
Madam Chair, Trustee Little, I don't know if there's a hard and fast rule. One of the things we talk about is sort of the gut reaction at what point do we all sense that, we probably shouldn't be aware of that. I don't know. This change in and of itself would give us significantly more flexibility, especially as we see the things that used to cost $30,000 are now much higher than that. And so we're comfortable with where this proposes. I'm certainly not going to put you up from increasing that amount either, but the larger that you increase, that's just more authority that you extend to me in my position. And, at a point you as a board, conversations about this and expenditure. So I can't tell you exactly where it's at. We propose doubling it. Feel like that's we propose doubling. I believe that will probably hit us where we're struggling most. What happens is, and you've probably seen some of these that have come forward, is that a lot of the things we bring forward are somewhere between $35,000 and $42,000, and so those are the things that we're trying to be able to move through. Otherwise, the big ones like in the paint, sort of it's like so much higher. So this I think strikes a nice balance, but what we need to do is be more Two, to what's happening inflationary and justice policy. I'm certain.
But Madam Chair, what my goal would be is that the board know about any significant expense that we should obviously know about because it's our responsibility to make sure we know about that. But at the same time, not constraining the president too much in being able to make a decision to spend some money that he needs to spend without going to the board. You know what I mean? Because he needs to be able to do his job in the business. So if you're comfortable with it, Joe, then if that amount starts hindering progress,
Well, we'll come
I
definitely
would
come back
like
with
to know
recommendations.
that. Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair, but also point out that we in the budget, we approve, we're approving a lot of major expenses. Now, this 60,000 is dealing with those items that are not in the budget that come up from time to time. And if you look at the procurement and contracting report, we have a table there on the financial solicitation, 30,000. That's not in the budget. They'll, with the approval of this particular policy, it will go up to 60,000. Now, getting back to the main question, I don't know if that was a motion you made. I'll second it. I'll second it.
Brad made the motion, seconded. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, just for clarity, so the motion is to approve the spending authority and limits
No.
policy with
No, it's
the
just,
elimination of that
no,
sentence.
the motion is just to strike the sentence. And we haven't gone forward with approving the policy.
So where do we go from here? We just go ahead and vote on it. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And is anyone against this motion? Okay, it passes, thank you.
Now we go back to the main motion.
Now I move to approve. Second.
And then we have a second, same vote. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Is anyone opposed? No one's opposed. Thank you very much. This is good. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. And then you do have one policy before you as a first reading. This is the changes to the degrees and certificate policy. It is here for your information. I won't spend much time on it, but just as an overview, it's predominantly a cleanup of language to incorporate the associate degree in nursing that we added as part of the renewed curriculum, statewide curriculum, and some language cleanup, changing credit certificate to certificate of completion to fit with some of our historical practices as well as language we use across the state now, and then just some minor cleanup. You'll see the elimination of the term major, exchange for program of study, so on and so forth. And so predominantly just terminology. Happy to answer any questions, and again, it's your first reading, so you can take it and consider it, and then we'll bring it back to you at your next meeting.
Madam Chair, as part of the street services and academics, we heard about some changes that were taking place in some of the degrees, so in certificates. So there were some certificate programs that had been split out, and then there were some certificate programs that were made into degrees. Were all of those changes considered in the guys' policy?
Madam Chair, Trustee Little, yes. In fact, the committee that actually went through and cleaned this policy and the procedure up was led by our registrar, so this is specifically for that reason, so that we can make sure terminology fit with programs and catalog, program structure, and curriculum. And a lot of that really dealt with these two areas, the cleanup language is certificate of completion and cleanup language. But yes, the changes here account for those changes.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? We will get this at our next meeting. Okay. think this is where I'll speak about under board reports about the evaluation for Joe. Is that new business? Where am I? Okay, I have it under new business. I did that. Finance and facility. Let's see if we can keep this short. It was a 2 hour.
We had a lengthy meeting. One of the members of the committee was getting very anxious. He was looking at the clock.
Oh, it was Jeff.
I didn't do that. Okay. Anyway, we gave him the opportunity to depart. We went on and made some major decisions while he went on. We had a very lengthy meeting. It's really good. We reviewed the resident hall rates across the state, various colleges. And as Rick indicated, it's very difficult to try and compare the rates because they don't have any comparables that you can look at. But we did review that. We have a chart that was prepared, and I think we could get that chart distributed to the rest of the members. We have architects selected for the Crossroads repurposing. And I believe I have their names correctly. The contractor for Crossroads will be Ford, Copeland, and Monk. And they were one of 6 proposals. The one that was selected. Then the residence hall architect has been selected, and that's the name of that company is Method. And there were 10 proposals. What I understand, Method not only the amount of money that they were coming forward with was that they've got some extraordinary expertise in dealing with specific resident hall developments. I had asked for an update to the budget reduction recommendations, like November 30 that we approved, and we saw some of them in the presentation, and I was very pleased to see Rick respond to that request and then also clarity of his report. In regard to the financial statements, they look good for April 30. The procurement and contracting report has a number of additional items on it that is just because of the time of the year and what we're doing. So I make a motion to approve the financial, to accept the financial reports for April 30 and the procurement and contracting.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Any questions? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Is that short enough?
So
I need some
good.
feedback. I need some positive feedback.
This is the best you've ever done. No, this man, his heart is in this financing facility. I mean, he pores over them. He brings lots of questions. I don't think we could ever be so comfortable as we are with John at the financing facility. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. You're done. He's done enough. Okay,
I'm blushing.
I'm blushing too. Okay. Butch.
Madam Chair, a couple of things that on the ACC campus, one we're in the process of being searched for a new associate vice president, and so that's underway. It officially closed on Monday. Joe, is that kind of what you're saying at the present time?
Solid.
How about I saw?
Open until filled, but we started prior to screening committee, which is
So that's ongoing right now, and I think Talisha had also had last board meeting, talked a little bit about the strategic plan. That's also coming right along. That's an important part of the Newtown campus. We should also give you some notes here about some goals for this summer that they're working on, and as well as President Schaefer's goals. I know that President Schaefer has directed the ACC to look at researching into looking at programs for the LPN program, I believe, and researching the medical assistant program for the college. Even looking at maybe civil engineering and technology and science and economics, as well as some new programs there. But the research should be has to be done both obviously to see if they have some potential for the ACC campus. We should also mention that they're still working on windmill plans. The windmill, maybe it might be more of a artist project, landscaping. What is that? So it's kind of an interesting thought. Looking at an evening class, you mentioned for auto and welding courses at the high school. That right now, we're, as you know, teaching the high school students, but don't have anything in the adult area or the adults. So, looking at that, researching fermentation science also is a possibility. That would be my first guess. Is that
I just have one question here for you, maybe for Dr. Schaefer. Do you have room for a whole lot of new programs? Is there space in the building? Is there space?
Madam Chair, members of the board, no. I think at least initially, I should say that, depending on the program and the courses that we may offer, I think it's just pointed out there the possibility that is then for portions of this program. But honestly, to get many of these programs out there, it's going to require us to work with community partners, Felicia and Kelly, and the rest of the ACC staff. Develop this relationship. So I think you will see a lot of these programs having to happen at the high school, at the hospital, and different type of.
At the brewery.
Madam Chair, I'd like to express my interest in possibly sitting in on the advisory committee for the LPN. Can you guys move forward on that?
So we should look for some other things we want to do. Well, it's been very active and achieved a number of goals set for the summer, but they probably be getting the hiring of an associate VP is one of our main goals. So get that done because we're hoping maybe that individual will be able to. So it's a tight time frame.
So Madam Chair, which who's associate VP before?
James Mullen was it such a big people who went to the November situation and later been acting as the executive director. Just executive director.
So, so
Yes.
Felicia, you're kind of filling in. Oh, yes,
Also, Madam Chair and Dr. Joe, you might talk to the academic affairs function has changed.
Madam Chair, Trustee Erickson, you are correct. As part of the reorganization and the interim strategy, I'm pretty sure I presented to the board.
I'm sure you did.
One of the things we looked at is within the administrative configuration was how we wanted to structure it. Because of the budget, because of the direction that we're going with the ACC, we did eliminate the position of director of academics at that campus, modified the position so we have a dean of student services and academic services, student and academic services, to each position the director of operations, and then we hired the associate vice president. So we're essentially one fewer administrators, and fortunately, as President Johnson pointed out, that actually provided flexing and having to allocate those resources to keep this space management goes in.
And Madam Chair, as I understand, these are pending issues.
Madam Chair, Trustee Anderson, that is correct.
Halo, any other questions or questions?
That's fine. Madam Chair, members of the board, as the academic year is closing, finally, we finalized our SVAC process. That was the budget that we give out to closing organizations throughout the campus, that we require them to come in and present to us what they're doing to better our campus, better our image, what are they doing for the students as a whole. We also went through a teaching excellence award process, and it was a very rigorous rubric rating process. We came down to the three that received that award was Dave Swanson. Yes, thank you. Rob McNabb and Starla Mason. So they will be leading the charge for graduation. I would also like to personally thank you all for your hard work and dedication this past academic year. This year has been full of difficult decisions, but it is obvious to everyone around that you really look for the future of our institution. So with that, I want you to know the student body stands behind all of your leadership and your experience. Thank you.
Thank you for being our student. I think you have a bright future.
Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you. I'll see you at graduation.
Sounds good.
Now it's my turn. I think Vicki said on this evaluation, there's evaluation out, is that give everybody on the board get this evaluation information? If not, just the just that.
And it's linked,
It's linked. Okay, so all we have it, I probably don't need to review it, that Joe's evaluation needs to be done by according to our new policy. I mean, it's always been that way, but we have a new policy that also states that.
Madam Chair, you have draft, it
I have a
changes to
draft.
your policy, yes, but attached to your agenda, that sent out a agenda synopsis of the evaluation process here on out. That is in alignment with this proposal.
Okay. But we know as a board that we always do president's evaluation in June and have it finalized because his contract runs July 1 to June. We will distribute, let's see, the board will use the same tool that we used last year, which is same to work, which I'm sorry, new members, you haven't seen it, but you know, it's pretty simple. Much more simple than some in the past. So, this will be distributed by the June 2nd retreat. I'm not sure about that because the 360 will be in by you will include some questions from you.
Madam Chair, I would too, but I don't know if I will have full response in that as part of that process. I do suggest I will get you the self-evaluation. So you'll have the evaluation form, my self-evaluation will include proposed goals for next year.
Madam Chair, I would hope that we're going to have an opportunity to review Joe's evaluation.
We can do that on the 20th.
That
That
is
is
executive
executive session on the 28th, and we can discuss whether we'll do it before the board meeting, which seems to be working for us pretty well. Keeps us from staying too late. If that works for everyone. So the board should complete the evaluation, which will be sent out to them and return it on the 16th of June. And then we will have an executive session and review it. What's everyone's opinion? Any questions? Okay. We don't have to vote on this. Okay, I didn't get any board correspondence, did you? I didn't see it. Oh, I didn't see it. I don't have my computer here. Well, why doesn't everyone just read it? I'll read it.
Madam Chair, it's basically a correspondence from the Department of Education, closing out. Notification, close out the successful completion of all the requirements we had as part of the civil rights review. So it is significant. It's just significant. We get all the elements that are identified to review access and all stuff. So great work by us. Like points out from how you do the staff.
Thank you. Sorry. Historical list of board motions is already available. Our next meeting is on June 2nd, but we will be seeing all of you before then at graduation on the 13th. And I think you have your timelines. I have one thought through it.
Madam Chair, just for clarification, some of you will be attending some of the fitting ceremonies as well. We have sonography and physical therapist assistant on Friday, I believe. So if you want information, those really are enjoyable. They're quick short ceremonies. You should have received instructions for commencement from Mr. Miller that he wants here at 9:15 in basically the school district's boardroom. Ready to go and
Really fun.
it'll be a long day because we'll have math and some training and the high set
And one of the things that college has done is really have to have this child lunch. I believe that's happening.
Madam Chair, because of budget issues, we will have granola bars. I'm sure we will.
Because you know parking is a problem.
Madam Chair, in regard to one of the discussions we had last year, we didn't follow up on it. I would hope that after this meeting, this commencement, May 13th, that we revisit the possibility of board members wearing robes at the ceremony. We just sort of lost sight of that after we talked about it last year. We would revisit that again.
And Madam Chair, Trustee Harrison, I'm actually glad you brought that up. So I've had some initial conversation with James Miller, who coordinates this, and I agree. I think our plans are for next year to order we have 40 board members who are out there. It came up because we'll have one of the new community parks commissioners joining us as well. And the question came up about it. So I think that's probably a good move to go. So we've got that already.
And who's the new
Yeah, his name is Craig Frederick. All I know is he's a pharmacist from.
So there are 3 names, and the other new one is Jackie Freeze, who some of us will remember her as the Complete College Wyoming coordinator. I can't recall the third person.
Is there any public comment? Is there any public comment? If not, then I have a motion for adjournment, please. Second, please. Brad? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Meeting is adjourned. Nobody.
I know we got information on those Friday night